Welcome to another episode of Purpose Today. I'm your host, Dr. April Dobson, and I'm very excited to kick off a brand new series that's designed for organizational leaders and aspiring leaders. And this brand new series is specially designed to help you to enhance your leadership skills. And we're going to specifically be talking about leading purposefully. Purpose aligned talent management. And on today's episode, I'm going to talk about 6 critical questions that you should be asking your staff if you want to have them engaged, if you want to ensure that you are utilizing the right approaches to talent management. You want to be sure to ask these questions. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with a new power-packed episode of Purpose Today. Today's episode is brought to you by the Purpose Professionals community in partnership with Purpose Today Global. For more information, scan the QR code. The Purpose Professionals community is designed specifically for professionals and entrepreneurs who are intentional about aligning their profession with their purpose. If you're interested in learning how you can pivot professionally to pursue your purpose, if you want to grow your career, develop your career, or you want to ensure that your business is purposefully aligned, you can also network with other like-minded professionals by joining the Purpose Professionals community on School. Visit www.school.com/purpose professionals or scan the QR code. Welcome back to Purpose Today. I'm so excited about this very brand new episode because I know that this is information that organizational leaders will benefit from. We're talking about leading purposefully and being sure that we are using purpose-aligned talent management practices within our talent management program and processes. So because of my extensive experience in human resources throughout my federal government career, I've gained valuable insight, and I've learned that there are approaches that a lot of managers are using that are counterproductive to organizational growth, organizational change, and receiving optimal outcomes. And so I want to talk today just about some questions that organizational leaders can ask their employees to help with engagement and to help ensure that talent management is properly aligned. And in future episodes, we're going to talk more about succession planning. We'll talk about talent acquisition strategies and more about workforce development strategies. But today, we're going to focus specifically on questions that you can ask employees to ensure that they are engaged, to ensure that they are aligned with their purpose, and it's going to also help the organization to grow. So these are some critical questions that you can ask. So one is asking employees what type of work they enjoy. Now, it's very important to ask employees the type of work that they enjoy. Again, this crucial insight is going to be helpful for you to have more engaged employees. So you do want to ask about the type of work that they enjoy. Now, this is very, very, very crucial Because if you're not asking the right questions, then often you won't receive the insight that you need as a leader. So we're going to talk about these critical engagement and talent management questions. So the first one, as I mentioned, is what type of work do you enjoy? Now, some leaders might be asking, well, why would I ask about the type of work that they enjoy? Well, this is why this question is very important. Sometimes organizations are so focused on having a position filled that they're not thinking about whether or not the person who is in the position is aligned with what their purpose to do, with what they enjoy, with what they love. And so when you have an individual and you have staff who are in positions that they love and they're doing what they love, then you have better outcomes. It allows you to achieve your mission effectively. It allows people to be more engaged. It causes people to perform better because you're not having to encourage or, coax them to do something that they really don't want to do. So you want to ask them about the type of work that they enjoy, because if they're not aligned, then you can take aspects of the role and be able to focus new projects, focus innovations that you're desiring for staff who actually have a strong desire to do that type of work. Let me give an example. For instance, let's just say in a lot of companies, both private sector companies and roles within the public sector often have various responsibilities that are encompassed within a role. So let's just say you have an analyst. We're just going to call the position an analyst position. That analyst position might have several different responsibilities. That person may be responsible for analyzing data for the organization as it relates to national security, if it's intel, or if it's an HR role, maybe they're analyzing workforce data. So it could be a lot of different things, right? But the position could also require written and oral communications. Maybe the person has to brief leaders within the organization. Maybe they're required to write a lot of reports, right? So there may be so many different functions for this analyst role, right? Maybe the position has a requirement to write standard operating procedures or write policy. So it's important to ask these questions, because if you have new projects, especially things that are very time sensitive, you want to ensure that you're giving that new project to staff who have an interest and who have a passion and who love to do that kind of work. So let's just say you have, 50 employees who are on your staff, and you ask all of the staff, what kind of work do you enjoy? And you have, 20 staff members who say that the type of work that they enjoy is data analytics. They love being able to do problem solving and take complex data sets and find different ways to not only analyze the information, but also present it in a very unique way, right? Maybe you have 5 employees who tell you that they really enjoy research, right? And then you have 10 employees who tell you that they love providing, presentations and briefings, right? So this helps you to decide which of your staff you're actually going to task with the new projects. And then also, if there are other opportunities, then you can focus on, of course, presenting the opportunity to everyone, but letting that group of staff who have an interest in that know that this is emerging, right? And that they've shared that they have an interest in this type of work. Would they be interested in this new project or in this new opportunity? So that's very important. Now let's look at the second one. And I believe that it's important to ensure that you're not only asking these questions, it's not a one-time thing, right? These should be conversations that occur on a recurring basis. So another one is, what can I do to make your role more enjoyable? Now, this is very important because the individual may or may not be willing to just volunteer the information if they're not asked. But if you ask them what you can do to make their job more enjoyable, this is a very broad question, right? So when you're asking that question, the individual could share a myriad of things that you can do to make their job more enjoyable. Maybe the person wants more opportunities to do more work. Maybe the person wants opportunities to work more on different work groups. Maybe the person wants an opportunity to provide training. You have no idea what you could do to make the person's job more enjoyable. Maybe there's a specific opportunity that's a training opportunity that's needed, but it's a very open-ended question to allow your staff to share what it is that could help to make their job more enjoyable. And it's different from the first question, right? So the first question was the type of work that they enjoy. So this lets you know what types of projects, what types of things they enjoy doing. But the second question is more focused on their responsibilities, what they're already doing in their role, what you can specifically do to help to make their position more enjoyable. Now, the next one is, what additional resources do you need to improve effectiveness in your role? Now, this is really focused on the role that they're in. It's focused on what they're doing, and it's specific to what can be introduced to make the role more effective. And I think that that's important because there may be some processes or procedures or systems that you've put in place that create bottlenecks that don't lead to, efficiency. So it's very important for you to ask what additional resources are needed to improve the effectiveness within their particular role. And because they're doing the work on a day-to-day basis, they're going to have that insight. And so it's important to ask that question. Now, the fourth one is, what can we do to enhance the efficiencies collectively within our organization? Now, this is a little bit different than the last question because now you're talking about corporately what can be done to ensure that the organization as a whole is more efficient. Again, employees are doing the work day to day. And as a leader, you may not see, as I mentioned, those bottlenecks. You may not see all of the opportunities that there are to streamline procedures, processes, even policy changes that are needed based on the day-to-day operations, what's needed to achieve the mission. So I think it's very important to ask employees these questions because, again, oftentimes leaders, because you're at such a high level, you're not doing the technical aspects of the work. You're not having to interact with stakeholders in the way that employees who are in your organization or who are on your team might be interacting with stakeholders. So it's very important to ask that question. You also want to talk with staff individually and collectively about what opportunities you have to improve by asking about the new collaborations that could be introduced within the organization to improve. And that'll help to improve the overall operations of the organization. That is very, very, very crucial to ask those questions. I think that, sometimes we as leaders can, we can, see things from a certain lens, and individuals within the organization who are doing work on a day-to-day basis, they know the collaborations that are already present. They know the stakeholders who they're working with, but they can also see needs that they have and who else can be invited into certain projects, who else can be invited into particular discussions, who can be invited into planning from a strategic standpoint and from a tactical standpoint. And employees will know the collaborations that are needed to continue to advance initiatives that you're doing in the organization. So I think that's very important to also ask. And again, you want to ask those questions individually as you're meeting with staff, but you want to also ask those in a corporate setting as well, because there might be an opportunity for employees to have the synergy as you're talking about these things together. And as they're hearing ideas that other employees are sharing, it may also spark some additional ideas. And you want to also ask about any personal and professional development opportunities for staff, whatever they desire specifically, both personally and professionally, and what you can do as a leader to help them to achieve those goals. This is great to ask because, sometimes you have employees who have a desire to accelerate their growth within the organization. Some people have a desire to grow specific skills. Maybe you have someone who wants to improve their project management. Maybe you have someone who wants to enhance their written communication. So they want to maybe register for a writing course. Maybe you have someone who wants to be able to use a certain type of software. There's a lot of different opportunities for development, both formally and informally. Maybe someone desires more on-the-job training as it relates to a specific aspect of the work. Maybe someone wants to be able to mentor other employees. Maybe someone wants an opportunity to have opportunities to be mentored. And so these questions are very important because you want to know the desires that employees have in terms of their growth personally and professionally. And you also want to see what it is that you can do as a leader to be able to foster that growth, to be able to help to position them for those growth opportunities. And so I believe it's very important to have those conversations with staff one-on-one. And I also believe it's important to be proactive and share development opportunities, both formally and informally, with employees so that they have an opportunity to complete those. So it's important to have a specific development plan for each employee, an individual development plan, and be able to align what they desire to do personally and professionally with the work that they do on a day-to-day basis, and ensuring also that you give them the exposure that's necessary and that you have those opportunities available for every employee who's on your team, and that again, you're exposing them to the opportunities that they desire for their professional and personal goals. I think it's really important for leaders to ask, these right questions, these crucial questions, and, ensure that what an employee needs, that you're giving them those opportunities. And I think that's important. And, when you do that, it shows your staff that you are intentional about their development. It shows them that you care. It shows them that you're going to do what's necessary to ensure that they're positioned to grow. And so I put all of those questions on the screen. It's scrolling. So if you missed it, it's scrolling there. So you want to ask these questions. These questions are going to help to enhance the engagement for your staff. It's going to help with talent management, and it's also going to help with workforce development, and it can give you some valuable insight that's going to help with succession planning. So again, what type of work do you enjoy? You want to ask, what you can do specifically to make their role more enjoyable. You want to ask, what additional resources do they need to improve their effectiveness within their role? What specifically can you do to enhance, what things can be done to enhance the efficiencies collectively within the organization? And then with that, they're going to tell you about things that aren't working. Also, what new collaborations can be introduced to improve the organization overall? And then sixth, what personal and professional development opportunities do they desire? And what can you do specifically to help them to achieve those goals? I believe it's very important to ask these questions, again, to employees individually. And some of these, as I mentioned, you can ask corporately, like what you can do to enhance the effectiveness within the organization. Those things are very important. And, a lot of the answers to this are going to help you to ensure that you are improving, the leadership. I believe that servant leadership is so important, but it's helping you to improve as a leader. It's helping you to ensure that you're empowering employees to be successful, to have what they need to grow. And so I know that, we've talked about several things on today. And I encourage you, if you have not been talking to your staff, your direct reports, and even your second level employees, I think it's important to introduce these questions. I think it's important to ensure that everything that you can do as a leader to ensure that staff within your organization, on your team, that they can be successful. I believe you can do that. And I believe these questions are going to be very helpful. Now, we're going to continue in talking about different approaches that you can take as a leader to help you to be purposeful. And so these are just questions that you can ask your staff. I hope that this has been beneficial to you. If there's anything that is mentioned today, if your questions did not get answered, then certainly you can send those questions in to admin@purposetoday.com. And, I'm excited about just the opportunities that are available for leaders to continue to grow. And I think it's great for you to continue to create opportunities for individuals within your organization and who you lead to grow as well. And I know that within every person, there's a leader. And I think by introducing these questions, you can even identify more leadership traits within individuals who are on your team. So please ask these critical engagement and talent management questions to people who you lead, people who are in your organization, people who are on your staff, because I think it's going to help your organization and help the professionals within your organization as well. I believe that we can't do anything within an organization without people. We need human capital. We need human resources to be able to achieve the organizational mission. And I believe when you ask these questions, it helps to, again, keep your employees engaged. It helps to improve talent management within your organization. So stay tuned next week for another episode. And we will continue to release episodes on Purpose Today periodically about different ways that you can be purposeful in your leadership. And we're going to talk about how you can have purpose-aligned talent management. So again, today's episode of Purpose Today is brought to you by Purpose Today Global in partnership with the Purpose Professionals community. For more information on the Purpose Professionals community, scan the QR code that's on your screen or go to school and search Purpose Professionals. And so very excited to be able to share the Purpose Professionals community. It's a wonderful community that allows professionals to network with like-minded, purposeful professionals, allows community members to receive valuable courses on a variety of topics, courses on mindset, courses on rewriting your resume, courses on leadership, and so much more. We also have various live events that you can attend virtually, and you have an opportunity to grow your career, to assist with pivoting professionally, and to be purposeful with aligning your business with your purpose. So thank you again for tuning in to this episode of Purpose Today. We've talked about questions that leaders must ask their staff that will help to ensure that they're leading purposefully and that they have purpose-aligned talent management. So thank you so much for joining this episode of Purpose Today. I'm your host, Dr. April Dobson, and I'm very excited that you've tuned in. So thank you so much for tuning in to today. Make it and be purposeful.